So today I'm going to talk to you about some rules that you need to know if you are buying a home here in Winnipeg, Manitoba. So stay tuned. Hi, I'm Jennifer Queen with the Jennifer Queen team and RE/MAX Professionals here in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. And today I just wanted to go over some basic home buyer rules that every buyer out there should know to improve upon their home buying experience when looking for a home. So just something to keep in mind is that real estate is very local, varies from city to city, province to province, country to country for sure. So when I'm giving you these tips, just know that they are relevant to Manitoba only. It might vary from province to province. Also, this video is the updated for 2022 version. We just had a new Real Estate Services Act come into effect here in Manitoba, effective January 1st, 2022. So perhaps some rules that you might have come to know are now a little bit outdated because this new Service Act dictates just how realtors are to handle clients moving forward. So just keep in mind that these tips are updated for 2022 and it's with the goal of improving your home buying experience because after all, an educated buyer is the best kind of buyer. So rule number 1 is buyer's contracts. Now, effective January 1st, 2022, part of what the new Real Estate Services Act told us is that now all clients must be under service agreements, or what are known in other provinces and countries as perhaps buyer contracts. So essentially what these agreements spell out here is that if you are working with a realtor and they are representing you as a buyer, you must have one of these agreements signed with your buyer clients. So just anticipate that if you are hiring a realtor now, they are going to require you to sign a contract with them. They are not misleading you. We all have to do it now. It is part of the process. Part of what will be spelled out in this contract are the terms and services that they are to be providing you through the duration of this contract. There should be an expiry date for the contract as well. And there will also be some terms stipulated about commission and that your buyer's agent is being paid commission for providing you the services. Now, I don't want you to think that this is necessarily something where you're going to have to write somebody a check or a realtor a check for providing you these services. That's not the case. Commissions are still in general paid by the seller as part of the listing agreement when they're putting their homes on the market. Buyers are not typically cutting checks to their realtors, but it's just going to be stated in there. The goal is to add some transparency to the process so that buyers know that their realtor is being compensated for the work they are doing and how they are being compensated. And normally that is provided already within the sales proceeds of a home. Now, if you are calling us and we are meeting at one of our listings, at that point, I just want to remind you that as a buyer client who has not signed a buyer's agreement yet, we are not technically under contract, but just keep in mind that at that point, we are representing the seller and their best interest and trying to help them sell the home. If, however, at this meeting, you're meeting us or so myself or somebody on my team and we're driving well together and you want to work with us moving forward, that will be a-okay. But to show you other homes means you will have to sign a buyer's contract moving forward. However, we can show you our own listings without that agreement in place. Just keep in mind that at that point, we are representing the seller in the transaction. And just a reminder too, that is not a team rule, that is a Manitoba Securities Commission rule. So all realtors are required to follow these same rules with buyer service agreements moving forward. The second rule that I want all buyers to be aware of is that you need to get a pre-approval in place prior to touring homes. Think of it this way, the sellers have put an immense amount of time and effort into getting their property ready so that it can be presented to buyers. So the least that we can do from the buyer's side is ensure that we have done all of the work we can do in advance of touring their home as well. And this involves getting a proper pre-approval in place. You wouldn't want to go shopping for something that is this expensive in your life without having the proper information at hand in advance of making your decision. So knowing just what those monthly payments would look like, as well as your pre-approval limit, is all stuff you're gonna wanna know up front prior to touring a home. And in all honesty, during the height of COVID, these pre-approvals actually became even more important to have in place. There were a lot of listings that wouldn't even let people into the home unless they had a proper pre-approval in place. And it makes sense. Why expose your clients to additional risk if somebody can't verify that they are qualified to purchase the home? Another reason you're going to want to have these proper pre-approvals in place too is because when we're getting into these competitive offer situations, which we're seeing all the time right now, if you have a financing condition within your offer, you're going to have only like a day or two to work through those conditions to be as competitive as possible. So that tight turnaround time means that your banker needs all of the other information that you can possibly get to them in advance, so that when they have an accepted offer in place, it's just a matter of attaching that and submitting it to final underwriting, because the timelines just are that tight. So yes, there's a few reasons you definitely want to get a proper pre-approval in place prior to touring any homes. Rule number 3, my smart buyers, is do not call the listing agent direct. I find that this is an error that a lot of buyers make. I list a lot of homes personally, so I get a lot of these calls. And what I will tell you is it is not in your best interest to be calling the listing agent direct for a couple of reasons. First of all, keep in mind again, they represent the seller. So whatever information they can glean from you in this conversation could actually be used against you in a negotiation later on. Also, a lot of the time, if you're having these conversations with the listing agent, it does kind of blur the lines as to who procured the client should you end up purchasing the home. It kind of just muddies the waters and does leave a sour taste in everyone's mouth. You'll find that listing agents, if you're calling them with a lot of questions instead of going through your realtors, like sometimes they might actually get annoyed with you because you're not following the proper procedures. And it doesn't help you when it comes to presenting an offer in a multiple offer scenario if you've already tainted your experience with them. So my job, if I'm representing you as a buyer, is to get the important information for you so that you can make an educated decision. So if there's a home that you're interested in or that you see a sign up, just write the address down, maybe snap a picture of the sign, send the information to me and let me take it from there, but don't be calling the listing agent yourself directly. Rule number 4. Don't be afraid to attend open houses. Now, I say this after I just terrified the heck out of you on the last one about not talking to the listing agent, but open houses are really fair game. When you are entering an open house, it's not going to be uncommon for the listing agent to, or whoever's doing the open house, to say to you, "Hi, my name is such and such. Do you have a realtor?" And at that point, you are not going to get in trouble if you say, "Yes, I do, and here is their name," or "Here's their card." Even I give my clients cards usually to give out if they're going to open houses. The reason why an agent is asking you if you already have an agent is essentially like when you're at a bar and somebody is trying to pick you up at the bar. It's kind of their opening line to see if you're taken or if you're still available. So by saying, "No, I have a realtor, this is their card, they're representing me," they will know to leave you alone. They will also likely not make you sign their sign-in sheet and send you a ton of marketing emails either. They are just asking that question to see if you can be picked up as a client. You're not doing anything wrong by going to those open houses if you are represented by a realtor already. Also, it's good to give my name because a lot of the time the realtors will like to follow up with me and see what you thought about the home and if there's enough interest to be writing an offer. So it's fine to give out my name so that I can have those follow-up conversations. Also, when you're touring these open houses, feel free to ask questions about the home itself, the neighborhood, the community. You can even ask what the seller's motivation is for selling. You can say, why is the seller selling? They might not tell you the answer. In all honesty, they really shouldn't, because in all honesty, it's not really anybody's business as to why anybody's selling. But a lot of the time, those conversations can happen, and I've been asked at my own open houses as well. And it never hurts to try and see if you can get an answer out of them. The more information we have in our repository, the better. Just know that you should not be revealing any personal information about yourself. So don't be talking about how much you love the home or showing any interest. Think poker face. Get the facts, get the information, don't give out any detail, and leave. And then of course, you can call me from the car and tell me how much you love it or hate it, that's fine too. But absolutely don't be giving out any information to the agent there that would give any indication of motivation or desire for the home or anything that might reveal anything about your own personal situation. So rule number 5, new construction and that process. Now keep in mind that new construction is a little bit different to resale homes. Whereas I'm telling you, you can go to open houses on resale homes, it's a little bit different when you're out touring show homes. A lot of the time when you're visiting a builder's show home, you're going to be walking in and meeting with the builder's rep, and a lot of the time there are sign-in sheets there. Now, builders reps often operate a little bit more differently, and if they are making that introduction of the home to you, a lot of the time it means that I can't step in later and help you in the negotiation process. At that point, you are being represented by the builder and their representative. So just something to keep in mind. If there are show homes that you're interested in touring, either let me know and we can all go together. I'm happy to do so. That's part of the gig. But if it's just say a Saturday afternoon and you're just wanting to kind of go walk around and look at some show homes or something like that, just out of curiosity's sake, just let me know. Let me know the builders whose homes you plan to visit, and I can actually send them a quick email just to register you as a client so that when you are there, you can say, I believe Jennifer registered us already. We are her clients, and we just wanted to come check out the open house today. This way I can help you negotiate that new home purchase without leaving you to deal directly with the builder's rep. Rule number 6, for sale by owners. I'm finding these popping up far fewer than perhaps years past, and I think it's just because people are realizing that in a heated market like the one we're in now, their best interest really is to be listed with a realtor and getting those bidding wars going, or at least that's my speculation. I don't know, maybe I'm just not seeing as many clients interested in for sale by owners lately, I'm not sure. But your realtor can help you in shopping for sale by owner homes. And in all honesty, I would truly recommend it because a private seller is not necessarily held to the same standard as a realtor would be in terms of items of disclosure, say within the home, and you also, as a buyer, might not have access to the same research systems that we do as well. Now, provided in those buyer service agreements that I mentioned earlier is a provision in which we can assist you in purchasing a for sale by owner home. It does dictate in the event that a seller is unwilling to pay commission, that then the buyer would, in those circumstances of for sale by owner, pay that commission. However, I will say that I have yet to meet a seller that wasn't willing to negotiate on that and include terms to compensate a buyer's agent within the sale price. So don't stress out too much about it. In all honesty, I think any deal can be massaged together as long as all parties are willing to come to the table and have that discussion, of course. But I have never let it get in the way of a client finding their dream home. Now, the same thing goes with for sale by owners as others. If you see a sign up on the front lawn, just take a picture, send it to me, let me reach out and kind of have those discussions. As much distance as we can kind of keep between buyer and seller, just so that we're not hurting your buying position. is really the ideal, to be honest. So having kind of a neutral party in there managing the communication really helps in limiting just what could be said that might hurt your bargaining position. I also find with private sellers, a lot of the time they end up revealing perhaps a little bit too much information, stuff that can be used for your benefit. And it's unfortunate because really, if they would have had a realtor represent them, they might have come out better. But obviously I'm a little bit biased on this perspective. But yes, allow me to have those discussions and negotiate in your best interest in these positions. Rule number 7, always assume you are being watched. I know that sounds creepy, but it's true, especially in today's day and age where nanny cams are the size of like a pin. So you can be in a home thinking that you're all alone and maybe there's a baby monitor watching you or one of those smart Ring doorbells, something like that. There's a good likelihood in today's day and age of high tech that there are people listening and watching you as you tour a home. Creepy, I know, but just expect it as par for the course at this point. Do not be discussing within a home how much you love the home, how much you would offer on the home, how much you think it's going to sell for, etc. Again, think poker face, go through the home, have your tour, and the earliest you should really be discussing this home is once you're outside at the end of the driveway, but even then it might be too soon. You might want to wait until a little bit later than that to have that discussion. True story, I had clients, I was representing the seller, and just so you know, I do not condone this, but they called me once to say, hey Jen, just so you know, we're getting an offer. And I asked them, well, how do you know? I haven't heard anything from the other agent showing it right now. And they said, oh, they're sitting at our table right now, writing the offer up. And they knew what that buyer was pre-approved for. They knew a ton of personal detail. And I hated every second of it. It felt wrong and gross and seedy, but that is just what happens. And their camera in that particular home was not hidden. It was out in the open on the wall. And the purchaser actually like went up to it and touched it at one point in their tour. Apparently, I never actually saw the footage, but so it wasn't like they didn't know it was there, but perhaps they didn't know it was on or forgot it was there. And the amount of information that was revealed from that conversation was pretty alarming. So yeah, just don't put yourselves in a bad position by having super in-depth discussions within the home. Rule number 8, please give your realtor as much notice as you possibly can when a new home comes up that you want to see. A lot of homes right now are requiring several hours notice. Totally understand, particularly when it's young families or there's pets in the house. They do need that notice to clear out. Not as many people are working from home anymore, or those that are might also have more limited hours and need to plan well in advance if you're touring. So just keep in mind that you need to give that notice. Also, a lot of listings still aren't allowing double bookings. So what that means is if there's a group touring at this time, we can't book at that same time. So with the amount of buyers out there and so few listings, the slots are filling up pretty quickly. So the further in advance you can let your realtor know when you're available and what you would like to see, the better, and the better chances there are that your realtor will be able to book a series of houses in a row for you to tour if you wanted to see more than one. But yes, give as much notice as possible. I tell you, there's some listings nowadays where you can't even get into a next day showing kind of thing. So just keep that in mind. Rule number 9, do a drive-by tour prior to going to see a home. So I have a lot of clients that like to just hop in their car, drive the area, get a feel for whether or not the space will work before they request a showing. But I also have people that do that via Google Maps. They'll just kind of drive along the street just to get a feel for what the neighborhood is like, and that's perfect too. The worst thing is showing up to a home and your client saying, oh, I didn't realize it was here, or that it backed onto railway tracks, or that it backed onto this busier street. You don't want that kind of stuff happening, particularly when it is already so impossible to book showings. And secondly, because again, that seller has done a lot of work in preparing their home for tours, and essentially we're just wasting their time by kicking them out when the house wouldn't work for us because of location. So please just do a little bit of research in advance. Make sure that the area is one you would consider living in, and that there's no negative externalities that would really change your mind about proceeding with that home. And rule number 10, limit the number of showings you are doing at one time. So I don't mean a crazy limit. Like, I personally think that 5 or maybe 6 is kind of the max you should really ever be going to see at any one given time. Really, because at that point, we start running into a couple of issues. One, the houses start to blur together. I'll have clients say, oh, yeah, that weight bench that was in that basement, I don't know if that'll work. And I'll say, that wasn't in that house. That was in a different house we saw. So there starts to be a little bit of confusion and clouding of thought there, but also the issue becomes in scheduling as well. Like I was saying earlier, the showing windows are much more limited these days. We aren't allowed double bookings, and so our showing windows are actually shorter. So the actual getting from one place to the next and being on time for each showing and not losing our showing window becomes incredibly tricky when we're seeing more than 5 or 6 properties. There are exceptions to this rule. For instance, if you're coming in from another province, say you're doing a BGRS or military relocation or some other relocation in which you're given about a week for your house hunting trip, then that's a little bit different. Oftentimes for those ones, we'll dedicate a day to showing you homes. I shouldn't say a day, probably a couple days, to be honest. Usually it takes about a day or two to tour a number of homes. And then usually like day 3, we're putting in offers. 4, 5, 6 are oftentimes used for working through conditions like home inspections and financing and those sorts of things. Of course, that does differ a little bit in the market we're in right now. But essentially, yes, if you have a limited time here, absolutely book as many showings as you can. It's just for those people that do live here and are getting out to see houses a few times every week. I would limit it to 5, maybe 6 at a time. And then each time you go out, just rank your top 5. Pick those top 5, go see those. If those don't work, pick your next top 5. Always make sure you're getting in to see the ones that are most interesting to you. And then going from there. Okay, so if I haven't terrified you, and if you like these rules and think they make sense, by all means, feel free to reach out to myself or somebody on my team. We are always happy to help. Also, if you are looking for a little bit more information on the home buying process, we do have a home buyer's guide. I will include a link to sign up for one in the link below. And of course, feel free to reach out if you're looking for representation from a buyer's agent, because we're happy to do so as well. And we'll have one of those consult calls with you just to see if we'd be a good fit. Again, I'm Jennifer Queen with the Jennifer Queen team and RE/MAX Professionals here in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Be sure to hit that like button if you found value in the content today, and be sure to subscribe to our channel as well. We're always coming out with new content and we want to make sure you see it. Thanks, guys.